My parents raised me in a large old house with a creepy side room on the first floor that was ominously referred to as the second living room. A dilapidated recliner, a wobbly table, and a horrifying couch that seemed to be whispering secrets from the depths of the afterlife were among the abandoned artifacts from the past that were collecting dust within. My mother gave me the day off from school one awful morning when I woke up feeling feverish and ill, while my siblings and parents went about their everyday lives. As the day drew on, the house fell into an eerie calm, and I began to feel uneasy. Around 10:30 am, the temperature dropped and the eerie sound of footsteps echoing through the hallways broke the calm. I mustered the guts to look into the cause of the eerie noise, my pulse thumping and my mind racing with terror. I made my way downstairs with quivering steps because I was pulled to the kitchen like a moth to a flame. I then met the abomination's gaze in the walk-in doorway's poorly illuminated opening. I was confronted by a large man dressed in ragged, eerie rags. I was paralyzed in utter horror as a result of his soulless eyes' ability to see right through me to my very core. Time halted as we came face to face with the horrifying visitor, an evil power coming from him. A deep terror that seemed to take me whole caused my throat to tighten and my speech to become muffled. As I hurried back upstairs in search of protection in my chamber, my footfall resounded like thunder in my ears. I slammed every item of furniture I could find against the door in an attempt to block out the unfathomable terror that awaited just beyond with my shaking hands. I crouched in the pitch black, my heart racing, hoping that my flimsy barricade would hold and fend off the horrors. My words were hardly comprehensible as I begged for assistance on the phone to my mother while my mind raced. I yelled, "Someone's in the house," and the sound of my own voice chilled me to the core. When my mother advised me to stay still and call the police, a frightening sense of vulnerability overcame me. I called the police while holding my breath. My heart was thumping in my chest like a constant drum. As I waited for them, I was filled with fear and hope that they would save me from the evil spirit that now stalked our once peaceful home. Each second of the minutes felt like it was dragging on for eternity, but eventually the police car's flashing lights broke through the night outside my window. I felt a wave of relief, but my worries had only just begun. Every floorboard creak echoed like a menacing tune as I nervously observed the officers doing their search. However, nothing came of their attempts. There was no sign of the intruder and no indication of his existence. He appeared to have vanished into thin air, leaving only a sinister feeling in his wake. Then, as the cops were about to go, one of them found something dreadful below the infamous couch in the feared side room. The area was packed with trash bags full of rotting food, evil-tainted personal items, and an overpowering stink of decay. We were filled with dread as we came to the realization that the intruder had been waiting in the shadows of our own house, preying on our anxieties and leaving us open to his menacing presence. The side chamber was forever polluted after that, a realm of gloom and sadness we dared not approach. It is a continual reminder that evil can hide in the most unexpected places, waiting to strike when we least expect it. That the echoes of that night continue to haunt us in our dreams. Many years ago, when I was a senior in high school, my family resided in a rickety old home in a crime-ridden area. My skin crawled as the shadows danced menacingly, and the walls seemed to be whispering unsettling secrets. My brother worked the night shift that fateful night, and my parents were abroad at a wedding. So I was left alone with Shadow, a vicious and devoted Doberman. The atmosphere in the home was oppressive, and there was a foreboding hush throughout. I had intended to spend the evening eating pizza and playing video games, but I had no idea that the house was hiding things that were beyond my wildest dreams. Shadow's sharp instincts picked up on something strange, causing his body to stiffen up and his ears to perk. Around 1 a.m, unsettling sounds filled the back alleyway and chilled my spine. At first, I thought they were just nighttime noises, but as the hammering continued, my heart began to race with fear. Shadow stood watch by my side, his teeth baring and his voice low in his throat. I made the decision to look into the cause of the unsettling sounds while my heart was racing. I walked down the stairs while brandishing a baseball bat, the floors squeaking under my feet. Shadow proceeded, his eyes flashing with ferocious resolve. In this frightening environment, he served as my guardian and protector. "Oh," came from a terrifying voice, and the banging stopped. I glanced through the cellar door, but there was nobody there, and my blood began to freeze. Fear filled my head as I became increasingly aware of the ominous presence that had been hiding in the shadows. I shut every window and door in an effort to ward off the darkness because I was terrified and desperately seeking safety. However, the evening was far from done. As soon as morning arrived, my brother looked at the basement door. To our horror, it easily slipped off, exposing the intrusive party's actual motives. I shook at the thought of what may have happened if Shadow hadn't acted bravely to save us from an unidentified danger. My image of our once calm home has been permanently altered by the occurrence, which left an irreparable stain on my soul. The home, which had previously offered solace and warmth, now seemed like a terrifying nightmare. Shadow, the courageous and devoted guardian, will always be remembered as the one that saved me from the evil entity that hid in the shadows. Even as an adult, I still find myself plagued by visions of that dreadful evening and eternally appreciative of Shadow's unflinching bravery and fierce loyalty. He was more than simply a dog. In the face of unspeakable evil, he saved my life. I was only 13 years old when this terrifying event occurred. I lived in a town that was mysterious, and our house had a strange energy that made me nervous. I took refuge in my dad's room downstairs that fateful night when a severe thunderstorm rattled the town because it was located in a tornado-prone area. I was watching YouTube videos on my phone when the time read 2:13 a.m. while I sat there trying to block out the storm. My dad's automobile seemed to be driving into the driveway abruptly. I was relieved to believe he had come home from work, but something didn't feel right. To greet my dad, I peered out the window facing the driveway, but to my surprise, there was no automobile to be seen. I waited for him to enter the house in confusion, but the sound of a loud car's bass continued as if it were happening immediately outside. My heart was pounding with anxiety and panic. Although the bass sound persisted, abnormally stationed outside our house, I assumed that I must have misidentified a car that was driving by. I stayed still, hoping it was simply a figment of my imagination, since I was too frightened to peek out the window again. Then, out of the shadows, I heard a hushed, unsettling voice calling my name. My mind raced with fear as my body froze in place. In an effort to find solace, I went to my dog, Raven. But to my astonishment, he appeared unaware of the menacing voice, making me feel more defenseless and alone. I waited in silence, hoping the eerie call would stop as the rain continued to fall and the storm intensified. However, the voice remained, growing more ominous and stronger in tone. I was filled with dread and couldn't get rid of the impression that there was something or someone in my home. I had no idea what to do since I was frozen with panic. I gathered the courage to move at last. I carefully made my way upstairs as my heart raced. The voice kept yelling, getting louder and more adamant. Although there was only an eerie silence inside my parents' room when I opened the door, it appeared to be emanating from there. With bewilderment and terror flashing through my mind, I hurried back downstairs. Although I was unable to define what had just occurred, I was aware that it was out of the ordinary. I told my dad about the eerie events of the previous night when he came home the next morning. He made an effort to soothe me, but I was still convinced that we had been visited by an evil force that evening. Years later, the memory of that mysterious call and the unsettling presence that lingered in the shadows still makes me feel uneasy in our home.